Okay, so we're off and running there. So welcome everybody to tonight's webinar. As you can see, tonight we're talking about grow yourself to grow your business. So what's that all about then? Well, this is number 6. There's a series of 8 webinars that I run. Try and do one every Wednesday night. It might take kind of 9, maybe 10 weeks to get through the whole lot. Occasionally I miss one if I'm away at an event or anything. But normally every Wednesday night at 8 o'clock. The first 3 are all to do with the retail side of the business, so getting started, things to do in your first few weeks, make sure you cover everything, and building that customer base, which is such an important part of your first few weeks. Then 4 and 5, the last couple of weeks, are to do with the other part of the business, sharing this with other people to build a team. And that's a huge part of the business, and if you're not doing that yet, I do recommend you have a look at that. It sounds quite scary at first, but actually it's really not. And then tonight and the next couple of weeks are about, I suppose you could call it the kind of the intangible skills in the business. So it's not to do with putting catalogs out or posting things on Facebook or signing new people up or anything like that. It's about working on yourself. Because if all that you had to do was learn how to put a catalog out and how to post something on Facebook, then we'd all be millionaires. And of course, some people are successful and some people are not. And the next 3 weeks, hopefully, will show you what things you can do to make sure you're one of the successful ones. So, as I've said there, you know how to put catalogs out. I mean, you may not all if you're very new to the business, but assuming you've been in the business a couple of weeks, you'll know how to put your catalogs out. You know how to post things on Facebook and start to build your customer base. And also, if you've been in the last couple of weeks, you know how to find and sponsor somebody into your team, which is really exciting. But what else do you need to build a successful business? Well, what this covers is just really an introduction. What we're covering is following the system, so you don't have to reinvent the wheel. Make sure you understand what system you're following and where to find out about it. I'm going to explain a little bit about some essential understanding. So there's things that you should know about the business and the industry that will help you to understand the bigger picture, if you like. And then I'm going to introduce you to personal development. I'm a big fan of personal development. It's not something I joined the business for, but it's probably my favorite part of it, and it really is important that you have a look at this. So I'm just going to recommend a few things for you to make a start on that, if you're not doing it already. Hopefully you are, but if you're not, that's perfect timing for you. So the first step, I want us to talk about not reinventing the wheel. When you go to school, obviously your teacher teaches you things and you have exams, and if you copy off somebody else, that's cheating. You're supposed to be able to work it all out for yourself. But actually, in our business, copying what somebody else is doing is the route to success. Obviously, as long as you're copying successful people, but the system that you should copy is it's very simple. It's what you learn on these webinars. So if you attend this every Wednesday night, these are all recorded as well. I'll explain at the end where the recordings are. So if you want to go on a speed learning course, you could watch all 8 of them within an afternoon probably. So you learn it on these webinars. And the thing to bear in mind is that Kleeneze has been in its current form more or less for about 20 years. There has been some changes recently with obviously Facebook and the 10-step system. If you follow that, if your team follows the 10-step system, that's really helped a lot of people as well. So the point is that you will have a sponsor and an upline, and all of those people are very successful in the business, and they've got to where they are by following a particular system, and you don't need to reinvent that. However, it is okay to look at adding new ideas. So don't feel that if you've got an idea for trying something, have a chat with your sponsor and see if that would work with you. But you don't need to invent it all from scratch. So the easiest way to do this is to find someone who is successful and copy them. So that could be your sponsor, your upline. It could be their upline. Or it could just be other people that you meet at places like this. So obviously on a webinar you don't get so much chance to meet the people and chat to them. But if you go to your local opportunity meeting or your local 10 steps workshop or your local team leaders sizzle, or you go to the conferences at Birmingham, you will meet successful people. And absolutely the best thing that you can do is go and introduce yourself, have a chat with them. Just say, I'm just new to the business, just wanted to say hello. It's a great way to get fantastic ideas on how to learn the system that worked for them. So, once you understand that you're not having to work this all out for yourself and that you can learn it from webinars and from your sponsors, what other things should you be looking at? Well, there's a few things that I think is really, really important for you to understand. So the first thing is to understand the industry that we're in, network marketing. So that's not just Kleeneze. There are hundreds and hundreds of companies all over the world that use the network marketing model. And there's a couple of great resources that I recommend you have a look at to make sure you understand the power of network marketing and how it can really transform your life and lots of other people's life, not just financially, but in terms of friendships and developing yourself personally. It really is a marvelous industry. So the first thing I'd recommend you do is there's a book by a chap called Don Failer called The 45-Second Presentation. That's a really, really good book. It's kind of it's only about 80 or 90 pages long, big writing, lots of pictures. You can really read it in a session. It doesn't take long to read it. And it's just a fantastic introduction to the power of the network marketing business. And then the other thing that I recommend, and this was the first one that I heard actually, and this is not a book, this is a CD, and actually I think it works best as a CD. It's called Building Your Network Marketing Business by Jim Rohn. And Jim Rohn has just got such a fantastic way of speaking. He's passed away, sadly, just a few years ago. But anything you can get hold of by Jim Rohn is a fantastic investment in your own time. They're not expensive. You can get these CDs, a $5 at the most. I think you can get them on Amazon or any of the local meetings. There will often be copies there. So speak to your sponsor if you're not quite sure where to get those. So that's understanding that the network marketing industry that Kleeneze is part of. The next thing is it's useful to understand the Kleeneze pay plan, but don't feel that you need to understand the whole pay plan. There's 1,000 steps from when you first join and you haven't got any customers and no team members, and to kind of building up, understanding that you earn commission on everything that you sell anyway before you even hit your first bonuses, understanding the different volume bonuses. So the first one that you can get at what's called the 10% level. There are other bonuses, 13, 15, all the way up to 24%. And when you hit your 24% volume bonus, then you become a gold distributor. And there are many, many more levels beyond that. Now, I don't recommend that you spend days and days and days trying to understand how all of these things fit together. It's worthwhile knowing at least a couple of steps ahead of where you are now, because then you can start to put a plan together. And I think one of my favorite phrases is, in order to run a marathon, you first need to take the first step. And this is a little bit like that. You don't have to understand how to get to Grand Master or anything like that. You just need to know, what do I need to do to get to 10%? And then once you're at 10%, you'll be thinking, okay, so what's next? 13% and 15%. What do I need to do that? Can I do that on my own? Should I be looking to share this opportunity and get other people into it? How do I get to that? So just speak to your sponsor if you haven't yet, to make sure you understand what the next couple of levels are for yourself based on where you are now. Sorry, just grabbing a glass of water. And then the other thing that I think is really, really important is understanding that building your business is a numbers game. And what I mean by that is there aren't really many shortcuts in this business. In the retail side, if you put 50 catalogs out, you might get 1 or 2 orders at the beginning. If you put 100 catalogs out, you might get a few more. If you put 200 catalogs out, you will definitely get more. If you put 200 catalogs out twice a week, you will definitely get more. The more catalogs you put out, the more customers you will find and the more income you make. And there aren't any shortcuts to that, really. You can present the catalogs, which is kind of a shortcut. There's pros and cons to that. Speak to your sponsor if you want to know about presenting. But really, to find your catalogue customers, you just need to do more catalogues. And it's the same with Facebook. There isn't a shortcut to just sort of saying, well, if I just post these 2 products in that special group, I'm going to make loads of sales. It doesn't work like that. You need to put as many posts as you can in your own group, get as many people into your own group as possible, join as many groups as you can, post things into those groups. The more products you post, the more you will sell. And it's the same with sponsoring. Again, it's a numbers game. If you generate one lead a week and speak to one person, then every now and again you'll have a team member, maybe once or twice a year. If you're speaking to 50 leads a week, you're going to be getting one or two, three people join your business every single week. And in amongst those people, there'll be some fantastic, enthusiastic, hard-working people that will really grow your business. And there will be a few people that really struggle, and that's fine. Again, it's a numbers game. You can't pick and choose who you're going to admit to your team. Well, you can, but my recommendation is you don't, because you never know when someone's going to do really, really well and transform their life. So the more leads you generate, the more team members will join, and the more income you will get. So it's just really just bear that in mind. You know, the quickest way to build a bigger business is to do more of the things that are working. And if you find that you're struggling a little bit and some of the things that you're doing are not working, speak to your sponsor. There might just be some tiny little things that you need to adjust to make a big difference. Now, personal development. As I said, when I first joined Kleeneze, I didn't join because I kind of felt that I needed to learn a lot to improve myself as a person. I didn't have any misunderstandings that I was a sort of a very mature person, but I just sort of thought, well, if I work hard, put loads of catalogues out, introduce a few people to the business, I'll probably earn some extra money. But I never thought about developing myself as a person. But as I've got more and more into this business, I've learned more and more about the importance of that. And so what I hope to do this evening, just in the next 10 minutes, quarter of an hour or so, is just hopefully inspire you, if you're not already, to start to think about your own personal development. And I remember hearing this at the workshop I went to, and I think about this all the time because it really is very simple but really important. If you only do what you know you should do, you can achieve anything. So if you come on these webinars and you know that you should put out 200 catalogues twice a week, and you should generate leads by posting adverts on Facebook, and you should do that every day in at least 50 groups. Once you've learned what you should do, then if you just do that, you will be successful. But things get in the way, don't they? You start to prioritize things. You have a bad day and you think, oh, this isn't really working. I'm not sure I can face up with that tomorrow. Face up to doing that all again tomorrow. And so you start to procrastinate. You put excuses up as to why you can't do it. And so you stop doing what you know you should do. Sorry, it's just running a bit slow at the moment. And the way to, if you like, transform your mindset so that you do the things that you know you should do is through personal development. There's another quote here from Jim Rohn, who, as I said, is one of my favourite speakers. Work harder on yourself than you do on your job. Now what he's meaning by that is you could put hours and hours and hours into putting your catalogues out, into generating leads, but you should also put time into educating yourself on your personal development. And I'm a big believer in becoming a sponge for information. You may have left school, but you should never finish your education. There's all sorts of different places you can educate yourself. Webinars like this, you can join obviously local opportunity meetings, going to conferences, going to workshops. There's loads of fantastic books out there, fantastic videos on YouTube. The more you will learn, the more you earn. So plug into personal development. That's a phrase that you'll hear a lot. And I would say of all of the things that I've learned in the 8 years or so that I've been in the business, the most valuable skill that I've learned is doing some personal development regularly. So that's reading. I got to admit, I wasn't very good at reading books. I struggled a lot, but I was great at, I'd quite happily watch a short video, listen to a CD, stick a CD in the car, something like that. On this set of 8 webinars, the last one, webinar 8, talks a lot more about personal development. So please come back and join us then. Or if you want a head start, as I say at the end, I'll show you where the recordings are. You can go straight to that one. um, and you'll as I say, you'll get a lot out of that. And get to as many meetings as you can. I can't stress how important the meetings are actually, because you get so much out of them. It's kind of a combination of information. So you will hear a golden nugget while you're there. I guarantee, it might not at every single meeting maybe, but if you miss one, you never know when you might miss the next golden nugget. And that could just be a little phrase that somebody says that suddenly makes you realize something you can do differently, or a little kind of a hint on something you could put on Facebook, or a little shortcut on how you can do your catalogs a little bit quicker, or anything like that. And by going to all of those meetings, you get the information. You also get inspiration. You will hear stories of people that are going through the same challenges that you are. They went through that, a year ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, and now they're, just returned from their holiday home in Spain where they've been all summer. They're driving off in their Porsche or whatever, and you're thinking, oh, that's fantastic. They're in the same position I was. I can be where they are if I kind of follow what they're doing. So get to as many meetings as you can, because you get information, you get inspiration. And one of the things I said earlier was, how do you find successful people to introduce yourself to? These meetings are the best place to find them. Now, I mentioned a bit about different books or listening, and I've got a list here. Now, I'm not going to go through them all in detail. The blue ones, I'm just going to go through in a bit more information in a moment. But if you want to go through this list to tick off, if you like, the ones that you've done, the ones that you haven't looked at, then what you can do is come back to the recording once I've shown you where this is, get to this point, and you can obviously pause the video then, and then go through that list. Now, one thing I would say, and this is something that I've changed a little bit, when you're reading a book for personal development, you should study it. Now, that's a bit different. When you're reading a book for entertainment, like a Harry Potter or something like that, you can read through it, you kind of immerse yourself in the environment. You might kind of read a couple of pages and think, oh, I can't remember what I've read about that, but it doesn't really matter. I understand where we are in the story, and you carry on. When you're studying a book, you should be reading each paragraph and each page and thinking, so what have I learned from this? What should I be doing next? What actions can I change as a result of what I've learned? So study a book, and that can mean highlighting bits of the page, making notes, making action plans for yourself for what you might do differently. So I mentioned a couple of these things already. So the first one, as I said there, was that building your network marketing business. That's a CD to listen to in the car. Stick it in your car, listen to it over and over again. I think of Jim as a bit like one of those like friendly old granddads. He's an American guy, so you have to get used to his accent, but he's just lovely to listen to. And if you do like Jim Rohn, there's a fantastic book called 7 Strategies for Wealth and Happiness. But when I looked at that title, I thought, oh, that sounds like my kind of book. I do like lists of things, so when it said there's 7, I thought, that's fantastic. I'm going to learn 7 things just by reading this one book. And that's about all sorts of things. It's about goal setting, which is really important. We cover that in next week's webinar, I think. It talks about financial investment as well. It talks about your life philosophies, which we talk about in number 8, I think. So there's such a lot in just such a short book. That's definitely worth getting. Now, there's a couple of books here that I recommend. The Slight Edge by Jeff Olson and The Compound Effect by Darren Hardy. And they're actually the same idea. The idea is that it's not the big decisions that determine your success or your failure. It's the little things that you do every day that make a big difference. I think in both of them, there's a little example where, for example, if you're trying to get healthy, and every day you've got a decision, about 11 o'clock, you feel a bit peckish, and you think, well, shall I have an apple or shall I have a chocolate bar? Now, obviously, if you have an apple one day, you don't suddenly wake up the next day really healthy, lost 3 stones in weight, can run a marathon. And equally, if you eat a chocolate bar, you don't suddenly put on 3 stones and struggle to get out of your chair. But every day, if you have an apple, over the next days and weeks and months, you gradually get healthier and healthier compared to the chocolate bar, which gradually starts to put the pounds on, so that the repeated decisions are the ones that will determine your success. In that case, in terms of your health and your weight, but equally finance, education, all sorts of things. So those are two really good books to get into as well. Definitely recommend those two. Or maybe read one of them and see how you get on. Now here's another one. Dale Carnegie wrote this book called How to Win Friends and Influence People. It's a bit of a kind of an odd title, but and it was written back in the 1930s, but it's a fantastic book. I really like to read. It's quite a long one, so you can kind of go through it over a period of time, but loads of examples and stories to get over the points. The gist of the whole thing is, if you're nice to people and you take an interest in them and what's important to them, then it's amazing what you'll get back in return. And here's another book that this is one I really like. Now I've got a feeling this might have been redesigned. It's slightly different now, and I've got a feeling it's a slightly different name. But Darren Hardy, who's one of my favourite authors and speakers, and the book's called Design Your Best Year Ever, and it's actually a workbook. It's not a book that you just read. It's a book that the first half of it you're reading, and then basically the rest of it is like a plan to help you set your goals for what would you do if in order to have your best year ever. What would your goal be? Maybe to save up enough to pay for a holiday or the car, or pay off the credit card debt, or whatever it is. And then you break those fantastic goals down into kind of monthly chunks, and then weekly activity, weekly targets, and then daily steps. And this workshop really helps you to do that by, every day and every week, you just go through it, spend 5 or 10 minutes working on, what did I achieve yesterday? What do I need to do in the next few days to achieve my weekly target? And by doing that, it's amazing how much progress you make. So that's a really good one. Here's a book, a slightly different subject, this one. This is called The Chimp Paradox by a chap called Steve Peters, who played a large part in transforming the British track cycling team from a bunch of enthusiastic amateurs to a team which basically took pretty much all of the gold medals in Beijing and London in the Olympics on the track cycling. And obviously there's a lot of other stuff going in there as well, but one of the things that a lot of the cyclists have said is, mentally, when you're kind of going up against somebody who you think's maybe beaten you in the past, it can be quite psychologically difficult to overcome that kind of fear that, oh, they're probably going to beat me again. And what Steve Peters talks about is understanding how your brain and other people's brain works. So why is it that sometimes you get frustrated or angry or emotional? And how do you deal with those unhelpful emotions? If you're making decisions when you're angry or upset, they're probably not going to be the best decisions. So that's a great book. If you find yourself sometimes frustrated or upset about things, and you just want to work out how can I deal best with those, how can I understand why I feel like that, and what can I do about it, then that's a great book. Okay guys, that's pretty much covered what I was going to do. I just wanted to check that you've all been awake, make sure you haven't dozed off yet. So can you remember I said there was a quote from Jim Rohn where I said, work harder on yourself than you do on your... Can you remember? Karen and Ian, thank you. Peter from London, brilliant, brilliant. Hugh, guys, you're all well awake. Fantastic, well done. Work harder on yourself than you do on your job. Okay, quick question for you then. Are you in the middle of reading any books at the moment? In which case, would you like to share that with us? Or, if you're not yet, was there any of the books that I've just been through that appeals to you most? Any of those that you'd like the sound of? Tony Robbins, yeah, Alison, Tony Robbins is an amazing guy. Yeah, I think you'll get a lot out of that. That's good. Mark, 7 Strategies, yeah, 7 Strategies, Peter Merner, that's a great book. Yeah, Roxanne, Compound Effect, that's a good one. Sarah, yeah, I've read that one, Your First Year in Network Marketing. That's a really interesting book. I haven't put that on my list, but that's a good one. Fantastic, guys. Good. So I'm really pleased that there's a variety there that people are looking at. That's the point of this, that there are so many books out there. Have a chat with your sponsor if they've got one they recommend. Or if you're not sure, any of those that I've just talked about, you can get them on Amazon for second hand for a £5, nearly all of them, I think. So they'll be great. Okay, so what we've covered this evening is I've talked about following the system. You don't have to reinvent the wheel, so make sure you spend time, you speak to your sponsor, you understand what the system is for, the retail side of it, the recruiting side, the sponsoring, coaching. Make sure you speak to your sponsor and follow that system. I talked a bit about the essential understanding. So, understanding a bit about the Kleeneze pay plan is important. Understanding the big picture, why sharing this opportunity and recruiting other people into the business is not difficult, because your sponsor will help you with most of it. A lot of people don't get into that side of it because they think, oh, it sounds a bit scary. And don't worry, that's what your sponsor's there for. And it can make such a massive difference to your income. And the last step there was, I really, really recommend that you start a plan, plug yourself into some personal development, and just go through those books, pick one up and start reading it. Okay, guys, pretty much finished for this evening.